Hey, welcome to Love the Bomb, a podcast where we talk about performers' worst nightmares on stage, bombing. I'm Luke Fagenbush.
And I'm Lauren Hutton, your other host. With us this week,
your guest, Lori Graves.
yeah, what are we talking
I'm
about?
a host
this
too.
episode?
You said you were a host. I host.
Well, yeah.
Alongside. I didn't say I was a co-host.
You were going to drop. Oh, did I not say co-host?
No, you said co-host, but you said it with a little extra energy where it's like, oh, he's being like, you didn't say co-host. So I thought, yeah.
Yes, Luke is a co-host.
The episode
I
was
am
great.
a co-host. Lori is a great guest.
Thank you.
A very tolerant guest.
Thank you.
This is probably one of the episodes that has like the most pragmatic advice for comedians in it. Because you've booked shows for 14 years, roughly.
Yeah, well, almost. Yeah, probably about 12. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think we did a good job as podcast hosts?
I do. I think this is one of the better podcasts I've been on. So
We should get validation in the intros more often.
I'm afraid to touch the intro now. Let's back away slowly.
Do you have any
talked about a lot of good
socials or
stuff.
shows coming up that you want to plug?
I always have shows
Fuck it up, Lori.
coming up, and right now I can't tell you because I have so many. I don't know exactly which ones I want to point out, but I am on all socials. Lori G Comedy is where you can find me on Twitter. Which my Twitter, poor Twitter.
My Twitter.
I fail at Twitter, but I'm also on
talking about a
Insta.
child you're not proud of.
You know who else fell Twitter? Elon Musk. So you're up there with the...
Yeah, I just can't. I don't get Twitter.
No one
Twitter isn't my
does.
friend. I just don't. Yeah, I put stuff out there. I'm like, that's hilarious. I got 2 hearts on that. Where are people? And then of course I'm on the old Facebook.
Hell yeah. Lori G Comedy as well?
Lori G Comedy, yes.
Hell yeah.
I have a
Follow
website,
those things.
LoriGComedy.com, that has some clips on it right now because I'm updating it. So give me another month and I'll have it knocked out. Yeah, I pay for it every month. I don't use it, but I pay for it. And I got 3
Check
clips
it out.
on there. So
It's
check
a
out
progress.
Lori G yeah, follow it and watch the progress.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You want the domain name tied down? Go, give it a follow.
Hell yeah. Thanks for listening, everybody.
Hello, patrons. Thank you for listening to Lori Graves' episode. She's so funny. Love her to death. Stay tuned. My eps coming at you next week. Firing into the future. Fuck yeah, baby. And, oh my God, thank you so much for being, joining the Patreon. A shout out to our patrons. Breezy Lee, love Breezy. Josh, Patrick Neiman, Nathan Alexander, getting it done. DD Diva, Triple D Diva, Jim Fagenbush, sounds like Luke's dad. Cameron James, Gretchen Schultz, hi Gretchen. Evan Beckmeyer, Gerald, is it Jarrell? Is it Beamish? McGregor Lakes, he's gay and everybody's cool with it. Garrett Teitelbaum, Eric N. That's it. That's fucking it. Alright? What else do you fucking pigs want from me? Pieces of shit. How much do I get paid? Oh, is that funny?
And then immediately my heart goes,
no.
you're going to say something that's going to make my crowd mad. Immediately, I just know immediately.
How am I going to fix this after they're done?
So I'm looking at the lineup like, better put him in between these 2 because that's not going to go well.
So with this being a bombing show, you don't have to have names, but are there any memorable events where people have bombed your show really bad? And you've been like, well, that is unfortunate.
Yeah, there's usually 1 or 2 every open mic.
Yeah.
But like as a booked show, there have been a couple, actually just in the past couple months where
Really?
yeah, the person that's went ahead of me. And you feel bad. I mean, I know I know we like to say, oh, it's hilarious when a comic bombs, but when you're, especially if you're the headliner in the back of the room, my mind is, I'm like, how am I going to dig out of this? You know,
Right.
what am I going to say in this first 30 seconds is going to try to bring this entire room back? And, you know, sometimes it's not the comic's fault. I mean, you know, just like I've had nights where like jokes that always hit don't hit.
Yeah.
And I'm real obvious about it now on my face. I know. I'll say something if no one laughs. I'm like, really? Everyone loves that joke. Okay. You guys are weird. But yeah, it's happened a couple of times, and it's just.
Is it usually like just wrong energy, just something they wrote that wasn't there?
You know, anymore, it's just younger comics not reading the room and not knowing where they are. Like, if I'm going to a town I've never been to, I always look that town up, and I look to see, like, how big of a town is it? How do most of the people make their money there? How did they vote in the last? I mean, I look at all that stuff. Not that I have like anything that's political or anything, but I just like to know who I'm talking to.
You might spin an inflection differently in a show in Chillicothe than you might in Cincinnati.
Right. Yeah.
It might be the difference of one word or just how hard you hit a certain word.
Exactly. And then there's some things that you just don't want to, you know, if it's a really conservative area, I might pull back on some of the language and,
Right.
you know, and maybe some of the content, like I won't do my dirtiest stuff. You know,
Don't do abortion material in the Bible Belt. Look up where you're
Exactly.
going.
Oh my God, that happened to me once.
No shit?
Yes. I didn't say it. It was a comic on the show. It was like a super Catholic heavy area, and this kid opened with an abortion joke.
Whoa.
And I am sitting
Coming in hot.
I'm sitting next to Jesse Nutt. He was featuring, I was headlining.
Oh, I love Jesse.
And then the next kid went up and then said something else that was equally as like, Jesse leaned over and he said, look, we've done a lot of bar shows together and usually they go well. And then he looked at the stage and paused. He looked back and he said, this is not going well. And he said, I'm going to do my best, Lori. I'm like, dude, just do what you can. We got a hole here. But yeah, but I mean,
the
just
two in a row kills me where it's like, but we need to make sure they don't think abortion's funny.
right. I need to make sure I level the crowd completely. I need to make sure I just bottom the sucker out for everybody
It's
behind
like a
me.
war movie where they see someone crawling and they just shoot them in the
Yeah. That comic before me missed a kneecap. Let me get the other one.
Yeah.
No, there's people standing.
But yeah, just exactly. But you guys, I mean, you know where you are and where you aren't, and just and that takes 5 minutes, like on your drive there when you get to the parking lot, or before you just look at where you're going.
No, do it on the highway, 80 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Look up the town that you're about to crash into.
And if it's like a super, like my bread and butter crowd, I've learned, I've joked about this lately, like my audience is 35 to 55-year-old women. That's my biggest demographic on social media platforms. So when I walk into a room and I see like a lot of women my age, I'm like, oh yeah, I got this one. This is in the bag.
Ladies' night.
But again, like if you're a younger comic and you've got material and that's the crowd, they might not know what you're talking about too. Not saying that people my age are ignorant, but you get a little bit older than me, they don't really understand. They've never been on a dating site. They don't
Right.
know swipe left. They don't know what that means. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
so it's a lot of comics I think fail when they don't have to.
Yeah.
They could have prevented it. I
When
think.
you get to the point where you've never had a disconnect because of age, like that, I ran into that for the first time within the last couple years, and I'm be like, hey, wasn't The Thing a good movie? And
Yeah.
it's
And the whole room.
22-year-olds are like, what?
Yeah, and how
thing?
old are you?
30.
30. Okay, I'm 51. Imagine me in front of the same
Yep.
crowd. They have no, like, I'm talking about menopause. You know, stuff, and they're just looking at me like, I don't know why this old lady is talking about this stuff. I am so embarrassed. So I just don't take those gigs. You know, I'm like, they're like, oh, I'm like, no, I'd love
I'm
to do
good.
it.
I'd rather go somewhere I'll have fun.
Yeah, and I don't want nobody's going to have a good time if I'm there. You know, I just, he's 20 something. They don't want to hear what I have to say, you know?
That's a really good thing to realize about yourself as like a performer of any kind, is like which gigs to say no to. Cause like your first gig, like emceeing for a band as a comic, I've done that gig and I should have said no.
Yeah.
I'm real glad you said yes, because I don't know if we would have you here if you hadn't. But anyone listening, don't take that gig.
Yeah. Music and comedy can work and it cannot. Most of the time it can't.
What way can it work?
I think if the comic goes up early and that's all they do,
Okay.
you know, just before that opening band. And again, you know, musicians they're like us. They need the crowd to settle down. They need
Right.
to, I mean, granted, you're falling on the sword, and it's, you know, 30% of the people might be listening to you, the ones up front.
Maybe.
But it gets you in front of people. It gets you used to trying to control a crowd, because I think you do need that as a comic. You need to learn how to control the crowd. So it can be good in that way as far as experience. But as far as the show, no. It's and don't ever go in between bands, because then you might as well just stand up there and stare at people and just scream at them the
Just
whole
make
time.
Yeah.
drink announcements and
Exactly.
You
'cause they
yell
don't
for
care.
20 minutes
Yeah.
at the table that your significant other is sitting at.
And usually you have the next band behind you setting up their shit.
Yep.
So there's that distraction. So yeah, just, hey kids, say no. Say no to being the middle.
they're moving around things that are made to make noise.
Yeah. And you're right on the edge of the stage, and there's like shit moving behind you. You're like, oh, am I in your way? I'm sorry. Let me move over here and tell my second joke. Let me move. And,
Oh man, you said something really interesting about like going up early and falling on a sword, which is basically the whole host experience. You've hosted probably more shows than anyone else that we've had on the show. Do's and don'ts of hosting, coming from someone that just ruined it recently.
Yeah.
I think that the main thing is I always look at the host. Actually, hosting sometimes like will be my favorite spots.
Oh no shit. Okay.
Okay.
Just because the audience is fresh and it's a challenge. It's up
Yeah.
to you to set the tone of the show. It's up to you to keep the show moving. You are not the star. You're the driver. And you need to remember that.
I like that.
The stars are in the back seat. You're driving.
They're in the back of the bus being all
Right.
cool, smoking.
Exactly. And it's your
Yeah.
job to get them where they need to be, the driver. So you don't want to give them, I don't do crowd work as a host. I don't open that door for people to start thinking they can do a Q&A. You know, I mean, I just, I think that's a big no-no. But, you know, and tell your jokes. Don't come out swinging, because it's not your job. You know, I think the host is there to get everybody settled down, give them the rules, give them some chuckles,
Yeah.
and then open the door.
So-
And that's,
When you walk on stage, are you like, round of applause, read the energy, what do they need next? What's your approach?
yeah. I mean, you want to give a good intro for everybody, obviously. Yeah, but I hate it when every comic is like, give yourselves a round of applause. I'm like, they've clapped 6 times already.
I remember my
They're
first
tired.
host weekend. I got off the stage after bombing, and it was Cam O'Connor at the time. It's like, hey, they had already clapped, and you asked them to clap 4 times.
They just clapped the other night of the show I did. I was counting. I'm like, they've now clapped 5 times for you. They're tired. They've had 3 drinks. They're good. They need to. Yeah.
I think they were ready for jokes at that
Yeah.
point, but
Yeah, they're ready to laugh.
They love the troops. They want some jokes. Let's go. It's all good. So,
Oh man.
but yeah, I think just to keep that in mind, and then you need to wrap it up, you know, at the end, and make sure everybody follows wherever they are, comes back,
Right,
tips.
right.
You know, like I said, you're the host.
Yeah.
You're welcoming.
It's like you're hosting a party.
Right. And you don't want to go up there and be all cranky and like yelling at the audience. Like if you're like that comic, don't host, because it's not,
Yeah.
you don't want to start it off, you know.
Say no to hosting gigs.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Get funny enough to just feature.
Yes.
Or get pushed in front of a band
I
in
feel
front
like
of
we should
300
be doing
people.
a PowerPoint right now. Okay, you guys get
we got
that?
a screen.
Yeah.
One thing that you mentioned was not doing crowd work up top, which is like so freaking hard in this current landscape where
Yeah.
everyone wants to be
Yeah.
the next Instagram reel.
And I mean, just like, you know, you could say hi to somebody, but just don't keep diving in. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Just, you know, it's sprinkle. It's still, yeah.
If someone is being super rowdy up top, and I've seen you do this and it's awesome, but how do you shut that shit down?
I will address, because they want to be a part of the show. They want
Right.
everybody to see them. So I will give them their little shot. You know, I'll talk to them and I'll be like, okay, we're done now. You've had your chance. Now the people that are really here to talk, it's their turn. So
Yeah.
you had your turn.
Strong bus driver energy.
Yeah. I mean, you just got to let them know, you know, I gave you your time and now it's time for you to be quiet, or I'm going to have to make you feel bad about yourself.
In a
couple
very
minutes.
real way.
Yes.
One of my
yes.
favorite shows where that happened. It was the headliner, unfortunately, where they were being rowdy. Mary Mack literally had an index card and went to the table and was like, "Do we have feelings? Here, write down your feelings." And she kept checking back throughout her set. It's like, "Do we have feelings that we wanted to share? No, I'll check back in a bit."
that's
And it
great.
just kept going.
Yeah,
Oh my God,
that's great. I'm gonna have to remember that. Yeah.
What's the meanest thing you've ever said to someone on stage that was interrupting a show?
Oh, other than shut the fuck up.
Don't go back to that well, I will tell you.
Yeah. Oh, I do have one. Oh my God. Yeah. I was doing a show in West Virginia, and it started off the evening started off bad. I got there, and there's a place to sit, and I'm like, it's a show for 2 hours. At least I just want a chair. So I finally got a bar stool, and I got a Guinness, and the bartender hated me the Guinness, and it was like 2 inches in the top. And I looked, and I was like, is that just like, do I get the other half of my beer? What's going on? And he was kind of rude about it. I'm like, dude, it's not a full beer. And I didn't say I'm the headliner or nothing like that. I just was a regular customer at that point,
Right.
And earlier I'd went out in the lobby, there was a lobby area, there was a restaurant area. I just wanted to sit down, for a minute. And there was an empty table. There was nobody waiting. So I sat down, and be the bartender and me, I scooted all the glasses to the edge of the table, like trying to help. And
Pre-bussing, yeah.
yeah, this lady came over and she's like, "You can't sit there." And I said, "Well," and she goes, "We have a wait list." And I looked out of the lobby. I'm like, "Where are they? There's nobody out there."
Where are they waiting?
So that kind of started it all. And she was just super hateful. So when I got on stage, the bartender kind of looked up like, "Oh shit, that's the headliner." And I said, "Hey," "thanks for coming out tonight." And I was like, "Look, somebody do me a favor. That little blonde next door," I was like, "Somebody get her a joint or something. She's not having a good day." She was hateful. And I said, "If you're drinking draft beer, order 2, because you only get half in a glass."
Oh, shit.
And
Just dump on the venue
Yeah.
and the help.
well, the manager was behind the bar, and he kind of looked up, and I thought, "Oh, somebody's getting their ass ripped." And so I was towards the end. I was getting ready to do my closer, and this lady in the front, I noticed that she had a folding lawn chair, like one of the stadium chairs you take in, that fold
Yeah.
up. And I'm like, why? I just kept thinking, why is she sitting in that chair? But I didn't say anything. And she was getting loud, and I was starting to joke. And I said something about the month of December, and she wooed. And I looked down. I'm like, "You wooed the month of December?" And she goes, "That's when I was born." And I'm like, "Great, good for you." And she just kept talking to me. And finally I just stopped. I'm like, "Look, lady," I was like, "why don't you turn around and bite the back of that fucking chair and shut the fuck up so I can get my closer finished?" And she looked and she goes, "It's my chair. I brought it." I'm like, "I know. Put it in your mouth, because I need to get my closer out." I don't know why I said that. I don't know why I told her to bite the back of a chair. I was just like, mad.
The less sense it makes, the more it comes from a real place.
Exactly.
Right. I didn't know what made me say that.
Pure anger.
But yeah, I was like, just bite the
man.
back of your chair. I think it was soft. I don't know. I was like, I don't know what I said. But and she got real mad.
Yeah.
But then that's the only time anybody's ever got super mad at me.
Oh, man.
How did the closer land? Was the audience rooting for you at that point?
They were, because they just
Okay,
wanted her to
that's
shut up. I got a huge round of applause just for telling her to shut up.
Good.
Because she was annoying everyone. But I was afraid to say anything during my set, because there were sponsors of the show, and that's another thing you got to worry about.
Oh, yeah.
They were sitting up front. I'm like, "Oh God, are they the sponsors?" I didn't know who it was. And
Right.
come to find out, thank God it wasn't that table. But her friends even laughed. So,
Good. Good. They're going to razz her about that for the rest of her life.
Usually-
You remember when that comic told you to bite a chair and everyone was confused and happy?
And again, not one of my finer moments, but I didn't know what else to say. I don't know what to fly my mouth. But usually if I give, because I'm older and I do have a lower voice, and I work with kids, I can be stern. Usually if I look at someone, just kind of like that look, and just be like,
Yep.
"I need you to be quiet," they usually shut up. It doesn't work for everyone, but usually it would work for me. So unless they're super drunk, and then I just tell them to shut the fuck up. But yeah.
Have you ever shut someone down in the room not be on your side? Like you kind of go overboard a little bit, or just hit a note that you didn't know was there?
Like if I'm yelling at someone?
Yeah.
No, because I usually, again, something I learned a few years ago, it's pointless to just keep arguing with somebody in the crowd and telling them to be quiet. It's just after a while, the crowd polices itself. I just talk louder.
Right.
and I just keep going. Like they're
Yeah.
not talking, and eventually they'll shut up. I've learned if like they're over here and you can hear them out of your ear, just like the other night I had a guy that he said something after everything I said, and I just ignored him because I like, I'm not going to give him the energy.
Right.
I'm not going to interrupt the joke for him. Nobody else back there can hear him. So I just kept going, and eventually he was quiet. But I try not to yell at the crowd and say, shut the fuck up, because if they're talking, they're talking. So focus on the people who are paying attention.
Yeah.
And if the loud ones are in the back of the room, just, let it go. Let it go. Because you cannot make those people be quiet. There's just if you're at a bar show, there's no way you can make everybody be quiet.
You're still in a bar.
Right. Yeah. and again, ambush comedy, people,
Right.
half the time people don't even know there's a show there. So just focus on the people who are paying attention to you and just let it go. And
Professionalism.
Yeah.
that's what I've learned to do, because it's just, I'm not going to start a fight with someone just because they're drunk and loud.
I was about to say, like, the meanest thing you've ever said to someone by, like, open mic standards, pretty tame. Like, pretty nice.
Fairly tame. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't think of any examples, but I've heard some of the most like cutting things coming from frustrated artists on stage.
Yes.
Frustrated
Yeah.
artist.
Right. And then when you're a comic and you're on stage, you're supposed to be funny. So if you're like
Right.
being mean and you're like, shut up, and yelling at people, the crowd, it's hard for them to get back into seeing you as funny again.
Exactly.
After you've been so brutal to someone and like
Yeah.
screamed like you're their mom or dad, and then
Yeah, you've presented yourself as an authority all of a sudden,
Yeah,
as
and the crowd's
opposed to
like-
the levity.
oh, they were funny, but now they're just angry, and then they don't know you're being funny again. So yeah.
I remember at one mic I was running, I like hit the mic cord with my leg and I unplugged it, and then just without thinking, I was like, fuck!
Oh God!
And it just completely bombed the next person's set. It was like, he was so mad at that mic cord.
Yeah.
Fuck! Anyway, it's John Holmes.
So everyone was just looking at the mic cord during John's set the entire time. Like, why did that guy cuss that
That
cord?
mic cord better behave or something's gonna happen.
That is something. Speaking of John Holmes and mic cords
I
and
love
things
John.
going wrong, Chameleon's mic cord has had some issues the past couple of weeks.
Oh, and he rolled with it.
Consummate professional. Did not lose a single step. Have you had any technological difficulties? I can't imagine that you've just been smooth sailing with mic cords after hopping venues multiple times.
Oh hell no! I think one of my open mics at the dock, I had to stop the comic. I went out to my car because I always have extra cords, and I had to switch out a speaker
Professional.
and a cord.
For real?
Yeah, I had
Juke the whole system.
yeah,
Start from
It
scratch.
kept cutting out, and I changed the cord, and it didn't work.
Ripping it out of the
So
drywall.
I was like, I said, I'll be back. I went to my car and got my other speaker and hooked it up. I did ComFest like way before COVID. I did ComFest. We're in this tent and the mic kept cutting out. And I looked at the kid doing the sound and I'm like, can you fix this? And he said, I called so-and-so. It's going to be 20 minutes. I'm like, I
What?
am not waiting 20 minutes. So I looked at the audience and I was like, is anybody up for Shakespeare in the Park? And I just did my whole entire set without a mic.
Oh, that's a pro move.
I just projected. We
Pro
were in a tent
move.
anyway, but I wasn't dicking around with that
Right.
crackling cord, and it was like kept
it's a
cutting out.
distraction.
Yeah, so I just said, you know what? I'll just do the show without it. So
Hell yeah.
Watching a comedian go, are we good now? Is it, are we good?
Yeah.
Like
It's the
every-
worst.
I don't know about you guys, but when a mic's cut, it always like on what I need them to hear. That's when it cuts out. You know, and then like the end of your punchline, like that crucial word, and then you're talking and it goes silent, and then everybody's just looking at you on the stage, and you're like, fuck.
Do I say it again?
Yeah, because at that point it's over. You know, like
Timing be damned.
yeah.
Oh God.
What do you think is the best show you've ever run? Is there one that stands out in your memory? Is like that's my peak so far.
Yeah, as far as theater shows go, because I do have the theater in Chillicothe, the Majestic Theater.
Yeah.
I'm on the board of directors there.
Damn.
Shit.
My second year, yeah.
Hell yeah.
Comedy
Congrats.
business.
I started doing shows there a few years ago, and then a couple years ago they asked me to be on the board, so I was super stoked. I mean, it's an 1853. It's an old history. We bill it as, and I'm assuming it's correct. Oh, it is the oldest continually operating theater in the country.
That's so cool.
It was a vaudeville theater.
Damn.
Okay, all right.
Like 80
Majestic indeed.
How haunted is that fucking thing?
extremely haunted. It is extremely haunted. Oh my God, it is.
Oh my God.
It's creepy AF in there at night when you're by yourself. Just like you hear anything. But so I love doing shows there. But one of my best shows I ever did there, I called it the Tens Show. And it was 10 comics doing 10 minutes each for $10.
I remember this poster.
That's awesome.
And it was
Yes.
all females.
Yes.
And normally I'm
Oh,
not a
dude.
big fan of the all-female shows. I think we should be able to be on shows with other people. But anyway, it's a whole other story. I picked 10 of who I thought would be a good representation. Like I had every female on there that represented anything. And I joked, which I don't know if I should even say this or I don't want to get canceled. I joked because it was me, it was Karen Jaffe,
Okay.
Wendy Ferguson.
Hell yeah.
I had Bianca Moore from Columbus, Amber Falter, Brooke Cardis, Nikki Winkleman. Who else was on that show? Oh, Bridget Denman was on that
These
show.
are all funny women you can look up.
Stacked.
Yeah, this is a huge list.
Christine Horvath was on that show. But I was joking. I'm like, I've got something for everybody on that show. And I was like, about Karen, I was like, I got a Jewish lady. I'm old. I was like, I got a little person. I'm like, I got lesbians, trans comics, bisexuals. I said, I have a lady of color. I'm like, anything you need is on this show. And that's how I built it, And it was like, I had everything covered.
You build it like you were selling watches in New York.
Yeah.
It's just like, I have what you need right here.
And not to date myself, it was like Benetton. I had everything covered. It was everything you need on that show. But it was one of the best shows. We had almost 400 people. It's a 505-seat theater.
shit.
Damn.
And production value, because I wanted to treat all of them like the comics I thought they were, because I love all of those women. I offered them hotel rooms. I had a bus, 14-passenger bus, come to the hotel to pick us up after we had a little cocktail reception in the hotel bar, just the comics.
I love it.
They all had a little swag bag in their room that had like mints and sanitizer and chapstick and stuff like that in it, and snacks. A bus picked us up, took us to the theater. And for those big shows that I do, I have sponsors usually. So my friend owns the building next door to the theater. She's a realtor, and she'll always do my pre-show parties.
Okay.
And those are usually VIP sponsor parties. She'll put a spread out. We have alcohol, and they get their tickets there, so they can just walk across the street, walk right into the theater. Don't have to wait around. They just walk right in.
It's very VIP.
And I always have the comics go to this so they can have a little meet and greet. And then after the show, we went next to the other side of this theater is the Poorhouse, where Ben, who owns that, sponsored the show, and he fed all the comics after the show. And then we had a little DJ over there and stuff. I had some entertainment. So that was, as far as production value and just like putting everything in one package for my comics, that was one of the best shows I think I've produced.
You are a booker. Like, we asked about the show, and you were like, this is the best I've treated comedians.
yeah, no kidding.
I always
Like,
try to treat comedians, especially the traveling ones, like I would want to be treated.
Yeah.
Right.
And I plan a place to stay, food. Some of
Yeah.
these guys on the road, they're always on the road.
Right.
Like Patrick Garrity, he lives on the road.
Yeah.
So when he comes to Chillicothe, I make sure I get him at least a 3-day run. And I'll get him a hotel room just so he can unpack and just be
be
the
in
same
one spot.
place for,
Yeah.
so that's important to me, to treat comics the way just a human being should be treated.
Yeah.
You're giving people a place to land,
yeah.
which is like really important for road dogs. Just a place to land and
For more than a
recharge.
day.
Exactly.
Or you could just like sleep in one day, then maybe enjoy yourself the next day.
Yeah.
'Cause that's important. I've always tried to do that with even all the years I've been booking. I've always tried to be mindful of taking care of the comics,
Yeah. It's got to be hard to do like self-care when you're bouncing from venue to venue for weeks at a time.
Right, or just like being in the same place for a couple of days to maybe hit a laundromat, you know what I mean? Or
Right.
something, or just anything,
Anything.
just to be able to breathe for a couple of days.
Usually,
So-
the most I get is like a text message 5 minutes before that's like, where are you? And then it's like, in the room, right behind you.
I've been here for a half hour.
I got here 30 minutes before. Nobody was here. I got a taco.
Oh my God.
Yeah, don't you hate that when you show up to the venue and you're the reason?
Yeah, the first person.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
you're the reason people are there. And then
I guess
the,
I'll open now.
Yeah,
I hope somebody brings a speaker.
yeah. You go up to the bar like I'm the comedian. They look at you like, who? What?
You're the
Like,
what?
That's my
what's
face
that?
on the flyer. That's me right there. I'm here. Hi.
Oh, I thought that was last week.
Yeah, yeah.
No.
Every week. Every week.
Could I just get a water, maybe, or something? Yeah. So,
Well, normally the way that we... Oh, no, we haven't asked you about your personal bomb yet. Do you have any personal bombs that you'd like to share?
I do, Lauren.
Oh, yay.
And it's the same one I tell when everybody asks me because it was the worst night of my life.
This is a thorn in the brain. I like this.
Yeah, I'll never. I almost quit comedy over this.
Shit,
It was,
okay.
I was 3 years in. And I don't want this to come across, but I hadn't bombed yet because I did all my shows in Chillicothe in that
Right.
area, and it was my friends. So I always got laughed at. You know, I mean, it's what it was. You know.
Yeah.
And Jonathan Craig from Dayton, I had been friends with him. I was like, I think I was 3 years in. I'd met him. I did the Funny Bone contest that they have, the Clash, and I won my month. And that's how I got to know some people.
Right.
And Jonathan asked me if I wanted to be on a show, and it was my first feature gig. And I wasn't sure if I was ready for it, but I was like, he said just do, 15 to 20. And I'm like, okay, I can do that. It was a bar show. I'm like, all right. And all the big dogs back then that I hung out with in Dayton were at this show, like Doug Morgan, Adrian Cosby. Jonathan was there. I forget who else was there. But it was just, it was that kind of show. Those guys were all hanging out. And I was so excited. And Kenny Smith was the headliner. And it was at a place called Julia's. I don't know if it's there anymore or not. And every year I remind Jonathan, like an anniversary of how horrible. And I'm like, remember that
awful
time?
show?
And then he'll send me back, says every comic who performed there, ... But I was ready. And what happened that night was the owner had advertised an open mic, but there was a booked show. So there were people there for the open mic. So by the time I got on stage, it was like, ugh. And people were either super like ready to be blackout drunk, or there was one lady in front of me that was actually asleep when I went up. I mean, she was in her chair,
Hell
passed
yeah.
out.
Yep.
And there was maybe like 8-10 people. A lady at the open mic, they had to go up and take the mic out of her hand. She wouldn't shut up. She wouldn't get on stage. It was just chaos. And I went up.
When you have to yoink the mic from someone.
This
God.
woman, she was drunk and she was like, I am not finished. And I'm standing on the side like, you can do that?
think you
You're allowed to say I'm not finished? Just keep going?
I'm going to run the light and hold the mic.
Yeah. So when I got up there, it just was just bad. I think I got like 3 laughs. It was so painful.
Oh,
and
God, in
the only
15 to 20
person
minutes.
paying attention to me was this couple clear of the back of the bar. And the guy was yelling at me, like telling me I was funny. And I was like, thank you. And he said his name. And I said, and he said, I'm Cuban. And I think I referred to him as Elion at one point because I was so panicked. And I was grasping for straws. And it was awful. And I got off. And I remember when Kenny went up, he whispered, and he's like, fuck these people. They suck. And
Hell yeah.
But it still wasn't enough to like make me feel better. And I went out to my car and I just sat there and I thought, I cried. I was like, this is awful. I hate comedy. And
After 3 years of not bombing and
I was
Yeah.
traumatized. I was
It's a hard
traumatized.
fall.
And I called my friend Carla Goldbush, who used to do comedy, and she lives close to Dayton. And I was like, I'm coming over. I drove 40 minutes out of my way to go to her house to sit on her couch and cry. And she opened up the door and she goes, what's wrong? And I was like, I'm quitting comedy. This is so awful. And I remember just sat there and sobbed. I'm like, I hate this stuff. She's like, it's going to be okay. And I was like, I'm never going back on stage. I mean, I was like so dramatic. And then I had a show like a week later and I went timidly
Right.
and I had a good show. So,
Hell yeah.
So then after that I realized, hey, and then people started telling me their bombing stories. And I'm like, oh, so everybody's bombed. And
Yeah.
But again, I didn't know that many comics, so I hadn't had that opportunity to talk to comics about bombing. I didn't know until I did. And then I'm like, this is a
Orson
horrible,
Welles.
Yeah,
yeah,
right.
this is a horrible feeling. I don't ever want to feel like this again. And now if somebody just laugh on my jokes, I'm like, that's funny. I don't care what you say.
I know that joke works.
That
You're
joke's funny.
wrong.
Yeah, you guys need to buckle up. Yeah, so yeah, Julia's forever in my mind on my deathbed. On my deathbed, I'm going to roll over and be like, Julia's was awful. Julia's. Yeah. But that was it. Yeah.
So the way that we like to wrap up these episodes is
Okay.
with a piece of advice or words of wisdom from the guest. But I feel like we've done that for an hour.
Yeah.
So is there a parting node that you would pass on? Because you've realized that we have a podcast for comedians, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, cool. As long
Tried
as we're
to-
on the same
I
page.
tried to gear it towards people who are trying to do comedy a little bit.
Oh, you were doing that on purpose?
Yeah, yeah.
I thought we just like
I
organically.
don't blindly wander into everything.
Well, I'm glad I have a co-host.
He has a plan. Clearly you do not, but he does.
I know how the mics work.
Thank God. We know who's running this ship. It's right here. Yeah.
So, do you have any final wisdom or parting words for our audience of comedians?
Your audience of comedians. I would tell newer comics to not do more than you're ready for.
Ooh, okay.
Always know your lane, know your place. If you're not a feature yet, do not take feature gigs. I know people are like, oh, I'll take a chance, but that could backfire in so many ways. Like, for example, I mean, you could have like a Julia's night. I'm like, I'm out of here. I'm not doing this again. And you just don't want to put your bad foot forward. So and
Yeah.
just be honest. Like I've had guys like I've like booked and, I'm like, hey, I need you to do 20, 25. And they're like, well, I only have 10 or 15. I'm like, you know what? I'll take it. And thank you for being honest.
Yeah.
I'll just put somebody else on, but it just don't try to do more than you're ready for. I know people want to, and it's, you see your friends doing and you're like, oh, but just
I want to stretch my legs too.
right. And it's good too, but just, know when to do it.
Yeah.
Slow and steady, I think, wins this race. And I know we see comics all the time getting shows and gigs that they're not ready for, and it's like, good for you, but oh my God, I'm thoughts and prayers because, it's like, what, you're not going to do well, and I sometimes I see posters, I'm like, oh, I don't know if you're ready for that. And it's not that I'm hating on them. It's just, I feel bad. I don't want somebody to fail. I want everybody in this to win. And, if you've only got 10 to 12 minutes, then be honest and say, hey, I've only got a solid 10 to 12 minutes. Maybe I could do 15. I'll throw some crowd work in there, but I've got a solid 10 to 12. Be honest with bookers, and that will get you a lot more. Because if somebody tells me they're a feature and they only got 10 minutes and I'm booked them for a half hour and they stand up there and eat it for 20 minutes, I'm going to be...
That's a big old
Yeah,
no-no.
I'm like, you just ruined my show.
Yeah.
And I wish you would have been honest with me. I could have fixed this, but
Yeah.
you didn't, So just be honest with yourself about
Oh, those are the words.
about where you are in comedy.
Yeah.
And I get it. And if you're going to stretch your legs 5 minutes, not 20. And not a half hour, stretch, but just nobody expects you to do more. And in the long run, you'll look better doing what you can do rather than failing,
Yeah.
and it's, you don't want to have that impression of somebody in the room that might be there to see you,
And then they see you eat it for 2/3 of your time.
Right. Is if I see somebody crush like an open mic, I know they've got a good 5 minutes, and I will ask them, hey, honestly, how much time do you have? And they'll be like, well, I got, I'm like, okay, thank you. I'll try to find a spot for you. Or so just know where you are. That's my advice.
It's
like that a
different
lot.
too today because there are shows out there where you can do like 10, 15-minute sets for an open mic. Like Justin runs Dean's Hops and Vines on Tuesday.
Yep.
Tuesdays.
Every
you can
Tuesday.
do 10 minutes there.
Yeah.
And you don't have to bomb a show finding out you can't.
There's a difference
Right.
between stretching your legs and getting paid to pull something in front of an audience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pulling something hurts.
Right.
Don't do that.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Don't do it in front of people, especially.
Yeah. But like you said, open mic's good for that. Like sometimes like you can get 10 minutes on an open mic. That's a good place to try.
Yeah.
But don't do it at a paid gig.
Yeah.
It's just not a good look.
Bet on a sure thing. And if you're not sure on yourself, don't bet on yourself.
Yeah. Also very refreshing to hear something that isn't the take every opportunity grind kind
Yeah,
of mindset.
yeah.
Like
I'm going to be honest with you guys, and I don't mean to offend any comics listening, but that grinding. That's like nails on a chalkboard.
Keep it in the club.
When people are like, keep grinding. Like, what am I grinding? I just want to know.
Pelvises. The
Yeah,
only thing that should be grinding is pelvises. We're taking a clear stance on this show.
Yeah, you're right. You should do all the open mics you can. Just, but I guess, as the kids say, keep grinding. Keep grinding.
Holy shit. That was really good advice. Great words of wisdom.
Thank you.
Keep grinding, but in the right way.
Yes.
Normally, we like to do like a little extra bonus episode afterwards. Are you
Okay.
down to stick around for like another 20, 30
Sure,
minutes? For
I can do that.
Really fun.
She's going to stick around.
I'm good.
Thanks for listening, everybody.
Helicopter.
Just take like a brief bathroom break usually. Yeah, that's rude.
No, I thought I would guess that I bet the United Way paid them at least $2-3 grand for that one nighter.
At least.
I mean, I know they were probably looking at like, oh, this is just a collect check show, but to those people, that it was a show. you
Yeah,
know?
that was like the thing that was going on at
Yeah.
that time.
And the lady said it was like one of the most popular events of the year, and I thought that's kind of rude. You could at least took some pictures or something. I mean.
Or at least make use of the area that you like had them set up for you. Anything.
Yeah, eat a chicken wing for God's sake.
Just a chicken wing.
Well, they had just put food in there before they got there, and I told Phil Handley, because I went up and introduced myself to them, and they just kind of looked at me, and I'm like, I'm Lori Graves, I'm your opening comic, and the host of the evening. And I told John, I was like, I've refreshed myself with your biography off of your website. Are you like promoting anything or whatever? And he goes, whatever, I don't care, whatever, it's fine. I don't know, it's whatever. And I went, oh, well, have a great show. I walked away.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
Thanks
So-
for being a person. You weren't a great person, but you were a person.
Yeah. So.
Have you had anybody that you've booked on shows that you felt like, oh, well, I mean, they were funny, but I'm not going to have them back because they're a dick?
There is a comic that I booked on a show that I will never have back because I don't agree with.
I'll remind you, we're behind a paywall.
Okay, yeah.
You don't have to say it.
I'm not going to say their name,
Yeah.
but just the things they said on stage were incredibly against what my personal beliefs are about things,
okay.
and I just don't want them back on any of my stages.
Hard to put your name on a show if it's
Yeah.
like not standing for what you believe in.
Right, and it was they said some things that they shouldn't have said, and just kept on it.
Was there an attempt at humor? Like, were there punchlines to the things they were saying? Or
It was, and I think they thought they were being funny, and they did get some laughs from those people, but it was just things that I don't agree with, and I just can't. I thought, man, I can't have, and I scrubbed my social media of this person.
Oh, wow.
Like flyers and everything.
Damn.
I just don't want to be associated. And it wasn't that they weren't a nice person. They were, working up to it, and after the show, very nice,
Yeah.
but I just can't. I parted ways without them knowing, and I didn't say anything. I didn't make a big deal. It is what it is, but, I'm not going to work with them.
Have you had to do that a lot? Like prune people from your life because of things that you hear them say on stage? And it's like, well, that's at least 20% what you actually believe.
Not really, because I don't hang out with those comics, and I don't book them anyway. Like anybody that sends me anything, if they send, I'll look at it, or I'll do a little bit of research, and if I see, we're probably not going to agree on some things, and that's not what my audience likes.
Right.
Then I will just tell them, hey, I'll get back with you. And I don't. And that's kind of, I think that's industry standard, you know?
Yeah.
No, there really hasn't been. Just the one, like, it stands out like a lot. I mean, there have been some comics where I've been like, ooh, I probably won't book them again. But I mean, if they're on a show that I'm on, I would still be on the show.
Okay.
That's, you know, but they're just, you know, there's only one person that I know.
Yeah, definitely if they don't do well, like I've had people I booked on shows where it's like, I'll let them cook a little bit.
Yeah.
Like they're
Right.
not quite done. We stuck a toothpick in there and
Yeah.
something came out.
Yeah. I'm all about chances too. Like I'll
Yeah.
give people
Right.
another. It's not the bombing. It's because I've had comics that have said things I didn't agree with, and the crowd liked, you know, but it was where that show was.
Right.
And I thought, I won't be back here, and I won't work with them again. You know,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
but it's something I make a big deal out of. It's just silently, I have a list.
Yeah, it's your personal choice.
And it's
These
not
are the
nothing
things.
against them. If somebody would call me another booker and say, "Hey, would you recommend them?" Like, yeah, people like them. You know, they're a good book. I've never really like told a booker not to book someone. Just the one. You know,
There's just one.
just one.
Just one.
But if they would say, "Hey, would you book them again?" I'd be like, "Well, they're not right for my audience, but people like them." Is usually what I'll say. You know.
That's a solid recommendation from like booker to booker. Even
Yeah.
if there is like a line in the sand that you don't want to cross with this person,
Yeah.
you're still not. It's not like you're making active decisions to blackball them in any
No,
way.
because everybody. I mean, there's a stage for everyone. And who am I to dictate what that stage is? I just know
Yeah.
that, like, I'll just say my audience in this little area didn't like them, but maybe if you're, you know, in this kind of area, I mean, your area they will, or, you
they're
know,
not funny in Chillicothe. Go ahead and try them wherever.
well, and like that. But saying that, sometimes comics come to Chillicothe. I've learned if they're not in touch with Southern Ohio or our area. A big peeve of mine is when I call them city comics will come and they say things like, "Oh, you guys got the internet?" Like, yeah, it's 2023. Most people have the internet. You know,
Yeah.
I don't have cows in my front yard. I have the internet. You know,
Right,
I
right.
wear shoes. I have, you know, papers of education. I'm not, you know.
It's still Ohio. It's
Right,
not Bangladesh or somewhere.
But sometimes
That
like
shouldn't have said a country.
comics will still fall on that. Like, you know, they'll make fun of the thing. And we've heard that a million times. You know?
Yeah, we've lived here our whole lives.
Yeah, but-
Lori's been
what?
doing comedy here for years.
Yeah, yeah.
Having lived both places, not Chillicothe, but like more rural places and the city, there's dumb people everywhere.
Oh, yes.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
So, but yeah. I would never intentionally get somebody not on a show
So
Yeah.
like that.
That's just stifling the art form.
Right, and I've never. I have one rule in Chillicothe. I used to on my open mics, and I still do. You know, we had a couple years ago. We had a lot of women that were missing, and you know, they hung out in known prostitution and drug areas, which, you know, again, that's just that, you know, not here or there. That's just, you know, a fact. And there are a couple of them, they still have not found them, and I have always set a rule, like, don't talk about the missing women in Chillicothe. That's always too new.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if they have a family member
not on
or
stage,
something.
like
For real,
And
if it's actively going on and they haven't been like, yeah, don't.
Right. And even though, I mean, it's been years, there's still family members out there, you know, and still people in the area. That's the absolutely only rule. And I also have to tell comics that come to my mic to not say a word if you do not have the skin tone to say it.
Yeah.
That's a good rule.
Because I did have a comic from Chicago come to my open mic years ago and drop that word, and I almost died. I'm looking around and everybody's kind of turned around looking at me. I'm in the back of the room. I just wanted to fall in a hole.
Right.
And then the
I
guy,
don't want my name on this anymore.
and after the show, I'm like, dude, you can't, what are you thinking? And his reply was, well, this is Southern Ohio. And my reply was, I said, did you see any robes and hoods in the crowd? I said, you can't say that. I'm like, we're not like that here. You know,
Holy cow.
Jesus.
and apparently he thought he was in Southern Ohio, so, you know, racism was okay. And I thought, you know, this is not cool.
what would he have done in Alabama? Like,
You know, yeah, probably crushed. But, you know,
fucking leveled the place.
He's the new mayor. of
Yeah.
all the towns in Alabama.
Just like little things like that over the years I've ran across. But
Man.
those are the 2 rules I have at my mics. Those are the only 2 rules. And then I always tell comics, I don't care what you say into the microphone, but just remember, when you walk out those doors, I can't protect you in the parking lot. So it's up to you to say what you want to say, friend. It's your 5 minutes.
It's your 5 minutes,
Yeah.
and it's your dark spot in a parking lot afterwards.
Yeah.
Sometimes the comedy judge becomes the chain in the pipe.
Yeah. Let me show you how not funny that was.
Yeah.
Oh my.
Yeah, we're deep in the Patreon. We like to let loose and have fun a little bit.
It always makes me nervous when you open the next thing with
Yeah.
that.
Because this is the
We're
paid. This
vibing.
is the paid content,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Okay, all right.
People pay for this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Would you like to do, Lauren? I had an idea for a segment, which is comedy autopsy.
Yeah? Are we?
Would you want to do that?
I don't. You're gonna have to remind my ADHD brain what that is.
It's we go over a set where someone did bomb,
Oh, someone.
and we just think of how they might do it differently, what happened, and we can do it for me too because I bombed recently. Over at the B list, I told that one guy with the dog to shut the fuck up and.
Yeah, no one liked you. You can't turn on the dog. There's one rule with
I
humanity.
didn't turn on the dog.
Animals are better.
Here's my
Yes.
comedy autopsy. Sit him up on the table. I stepped out. People weren't really liking my jokes, and I was having a lot of fun because before the show, this guy fed his dog a beer
Okay.
Yes.
just in the room, and I'm like, "Yeah, you guys are a lot of fun." To no response because my jokes weren't going well. And
To be fair, Stephen Bear went up before you and got the entire bar screaming the word Reds. And then you went up and said, "How
he-
about them sports? Sports, guys! Sports and sports
Okay.
with the folks in the ball."
running around the square with the ball with the stitches, the hard one.
Yep. Going back to reading the room.
Okay, immediately after everyone was like, "Yeah, we're a sports bar," I'm like, "I'm not a sports guy though."
Yeah. That's a good open.
I was dying. The folks at the B list were like, "I don't like him."
At first, the dog thing did very well. They were drunk and having fun, and they're like,
much
"Yeah,
fun.
cut this dog off. He's on all fours. What are we doing here?" And then I tried to move on to my joke, and they were like, it wasn't me. It was the guy, and there's the guy. And I'm like, shut the fuck up. I just let you talk.
Yeah, they didn't like that. They didn't like that
That was
at all.
the part that, that's why
You
that
told the
set's on the
drunk- You
table.
told the drunk, sporty people to shut the fuck up. Yeah.
And then I kind
After
of.
he already identified himself as not a sporty person. That's some David and Goliath shit right
It
there, my
really
friend.
is.
It
Holy
yeah.
shit.
So I pulled out of
yeah?
the nosedive a little bit, and I'm leveling off because I'm like, oh, the dog, though. Yeah, you're carrying this guy home, huh? A little bit more. And then I get into my joke again, and he says something, and I'm like, oh my God.
I remember that
was-
moment.
That's why my set's up on the autopsy table.
Okay, so yeah, going back to the David and Goliath comment, I don't think you brought the right rocks.
Yeah.
Yeah, those rocks were for Northside, I think.
Little bit. Oh man,
That's fun.
Were you at this, Mike?
I was.
Was it as bad as he said it is?
Honestly, I sometimes you have this
you're
habit.
always super critical of yourself.
Exactly.
So
Yeah,
was
yeah.
it, first of all, before we cut it open, was it as bad as he's saying it is?
We checked, no pulse.
Normally-
Doctor?
Normally, Luke is the type to put himself in a far worse position by his own perspective. Unfortunately, we have started videoing our sets, and the evidence is apparent.
Let's
it's
go back to the
pretty
tapes.
accurate. It's pretty accurate.
An instant replay on that,
depiction.
please. Yeah.
It was the part that makes it stand out as a bomb for me was how flat the shut the fuck up landed, because I've done that before and it goes well and people are like, oh,
Right.
he's having fun.
Yeah, he's ribbing us.
And
But they
that
weren't
time
on
it was a
board with
little
that.
too honest.
By the time you got to "Oh my God," you had all of the energy of a mom in a minivan
Okay.
with her soccer team that she
The whole team.
already didn't want to take to the game and now has to take for pizza afterwards.
So you're gonna need those shin guards, kids.
And shut the fuck up. No.
Oh man.
No orange slices.
Was it bad from the very beginning? Like as soon as you like put the mic to your mouth, was it bad before
okay.
you said anything?
The sports thing wasn't going anywhere, but people were like, "Oh, okay, we don't really get it, but we're still listening."
You were still getting some chuckles from some of the
And then
people.
There were 3 or 4 new one-liner jokes that I was trying out, and there was still chuckles. There was still, "You're working on it. It's fine."
Did you do those up top?
Yeah. Mistake.
Yeah. Okay. Was that-
This is a part of the autopsy. Is like, and then he turned down the dark alley.
God. Continue.
and they were bobbing in the waters. I don't know how this guy died. I'm mixing my metaphors a lot. He could have escaped at this point. But then the dog thing happened, and it's like, okay, there's a little fuel on the fire. What are we doing with this? And then that's, on the ground, cold after
They
shut
still
the fuck
wanted
up.
to be a part of the show,
Very badly.
and you were not letting them.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I let my stress show a little bit. I think that's
You can't do
the
that ever.
takeaway.
Yeah.
Where you're like, if you're not in the headspace to be joyfully kind of ribbing, maybe don't open that door for yourself.
Ah,
Yeah, that is a good point. Yeah, don't, I guess, instead of never show fear, never show irritation.
right. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, that is good. Yeah, that would be good advice for someone. Just don't, yeah.
I like
For someone, I'll take that advice and I'll run with it, Lori. Thank you.
Well, that's your advice. I just repeated what you said. But I'll take the credit.
Along with all the other advice you actually...
Check mark for me.
that. All advice credits go to Lori for this
Yeah.
episode.
Okay,
I'll
yeah.
add that to my comedy class. So like this, watch this.
Should
watch
we
this
put him back in the
episode.
big drawer? Should we shut her up?
Did you have a closer that night, or did you just be like, hell with it, I'm just stopping now?
I did have a closer.
What did you finish out on?
The thing in the video where I was trying to get to my next joke but couldn't because I opened this whole dog fiasco thing.
It was a dog of worms.
It kept being like, okay, hey, dog stuff. Anybody have friends with benefits? Tepid applause. Dog stuff, dogs. Anybody have friends with benefits out there? Anybody real dog stuff, dogs? And the joke was eventually I had a friends with benefits and they're annoying because they won't stop texting me because I married her. Oh, and it was I stumbled the dismount and got off stage, but it wasn't. I feel like I controlled the he's mad at us a little bit, and they kind of forgot by the end.
Yeah, I would agree
Yeah.
with that.
So it was a crash landing. The wheels stayed on though.
Yeah.
Yeah. You really Hudson Bay'd that plane.
That was a nice ref there. As a nice,
Yeah.
Everyone survived. The plane's fucked, but everyone lived.
Okay, maybe the wheels didn't stay.
you didn't lose anybody. Did anybody get up and walk out while you were on stage?
No,
I don't think so.
it's an apt metaphor.
And actually, the dog people stayed for a while.
They did. They didn't leave immediately after you.
Yeah.
I
So-
think.
See, maybe it wasn't as bad as you thought it was.
Here we go.
Yeah, that's
Nobody
learning
was
to
like,
love the bomb.
Nobody was like, this guy, I'm going to go take a piss. You know, nobody was like, I mean, they sat there, you know, so.
The toe tag it's not as bad as you think.
It was bad, but not that bad. It wasn't
That
Still
bad.
dead, but
Yeah.
you didn't suffer.
Do you want to take the lens off of you now?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Is this, oh, we sew you back up now? Is that the autopsy thing? Is that what it is?
Sew him back up.
Sew
Send
him
him
back
out in
up.
the world.
Make
Here's
him
a
look
couple
pretty for his
opiates.
family.
Try again, buddy. Try again.
Oh, no, I also had a bomb recently that was it's actually why I asked you for hosting advice, because I you ever ask for something specifically and then you get it and you're like, "Oh, cool. That feels good." And then you do the thing that you asked for and you're like, "Why do I ever leave my house?"
Yes.
Why do I ever think that I have the capacity to complete any of my goals?
I want to put that not as bad as you think toe tag on there pretty early.
Yeah, okay.
Because I did
thanks.
see this.
And you were at this performance.
I was,
Okay.
yeah.
All right,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. This was a pro-am this past Wednesday at Go Bananas.
Okay.
And I've got a hosting gig at a distillery that's a paid gig, and I haven't hosted anything in a long time. So I reached out to Lee, and I was like, hey, this is the situation. I need to knock some rust off. Throw me a bone, please. And he did. Thank you so much, Lee. And then I get there, Lightroom, that is whatever it is. And then I like systematically just am not a good host. I like pretended I was the fifth comic and just went up there and did jokes.
Well, I will say that you did bring good energy up top, and I told you that 2 or 3 times, and you're like, yeah. But, no, you went
How
up there.
dare you credit me for a good
clapped.
thing?
And your voice and your attitude and your energy, which is something that I lack, was very good, and people were with you. And then I feel like the hosting thing, where it's always at 80% instead of the full 100, started to kind of sink in.
A little bit. But honestly, the thing that got me in my own head was doing jokes that I'm not super comfortable with, that are about my appearance, and I was getting wooed at. And that immediately took me out of the room. And so, like, as soon as the energy dipped, that's when I just started disassociating on stage, because I was like, I made a comment about my appearance, and then this table right here went, woo! And I was like, I don't know how to deal with that. And normally, you know, you engage, try to calm, move on.
Yeah.
And I ignored and got in my own head about it. And then I wasn't on stage for the rest of my set. I was just in la la land of my own head, which resulted in some very long pauses while I was trying to think of something to say out loud.
I've had that happen before, where something like shook me for a second.
Yeah.
And then I just couldn't step away. I couldn't get away from it. You know, it
Right.
followed me for about 4 or 5 minutes before.
You can't get back to your
God,
feet.
you know, yeah. And then
How do you get back to your feet in those moments? Or do you just keep going until you find yourself?
I just keep going. It depends on what got me there. Like if it's somebody yelled something at the crowd, like if somebody yelled something at me, and if that throws me, or like I said, or if I go out, if I say something to somebody in the crowd and it doesn't go, you know, like,
Right.
because
Yeah.
that's all happened. You think there, and all of a sudden they just say something, you have nothing. What they weren't funny, and you've got nothing to make it funny. So like anyway, yeah.
Here's the next thing.
If it's a joke though that like didn't go well and that shakes me, I just immediately start scrambling, trying to figure out which way to go.
Okay.
You know, and I might skip ahead till I know. I might skip in my set or my lineup in my head to like a joke couple.
Like the
One of
next
my-
strong open.
One of my heavier ones, yeah, that I
Yeah.
can just like hit them with immediately, and then I'll work my way back. But it's hard though. I mean, I have trouble still. I mean, it's anybody does. It's hard to get. I don't care what anybody says. That's hard. I mean, once you get shook, it takes you a couple minutes to.
And you called hosting, like you said, you like it because it's a challenge.
Yeah.
I do because it tests your, you know, for lack of better, your chops. You know, I mean, it's just
Yeah.
like you get up there and you're the first one, so you got to get it going. So you got to find
you can't
that.
ride off of any energy that anyone else is bringing.
No, you can't.
You're bringing
call
it.
back to. I mean, you can't do anything.
Yeah, no
you're
references.
It.
Yeah.
You just got to go. And that again is where researching where you are comes into play. You can maybe tap into something locally, and I always try to do that anyway. Like reference something locally, like in the first minute or two, just so they know that I know where I am.
Right. I'm here with you.
And it kind of like, hey, old friend, you know.
I'm not
like, yeah.
Lizzo telling Lexington I'm in Louisville the whole time.
I am
You
one
should
of-
know where you're performing.
Right, but it also lets them know that you give a shit about where you are too. You know, if
Right.
you mention a local place or reference something.
There's like a camaraderie to
that's
that.
another
We're all
little
in this
hosting
together.
tip. Yeah, you always
Yeah.
want to like, hey, I'm your friend, come with me.
Yeah.
Let's watch this show together. You know, so I always try to just be super friendly.
That's how I started saying things that I didn't write down on paper, where I made a little rule in open mics where I go up and say something about the room first thing off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that we saw how that ended, so maybe I should stop doing that entirely.
Baby steps.
Yeah,
Baby
you know,
steps.
it was 2 baby
Yeah.
steps forward, 3 back. That's
You want to stretch, not pull something. Remember.
Yes. Yeah.
I love that the Patreon's just callbacks to the episode.
We should be writing all this shit down. Like we have a little, like, hey, do the little checklist.
Put it on the PowerPoint when we get that green
Yeah,
screen
you
up
guys
and
get that
running.
green right behind me. And right here, as I was referring to earlier, this
And
point.
if you go back to slide BA,
yeah.
For the 5th time, don't tell them to shut the fuck up. It's aggressive.
oh man,
Would that even work if you said it nicely? Like, oh my God, you
Hey.
guys, would you please shut the fuck up?
I know
Valley
some
Girl
comics that could get
style.
away with that.
Yeah.
There's you have to have a particular face.
Hannah Youngholm
That's
saying,
exactly what I was thinking
shut
of.
the fuck up would be hilarious.
Hey,
Fuck up, though.
could you please shut the fuck up?
Thanks. Yeah. Thank you. You guys are awesome. Give yourselves a round of applause for coming
shutting
out
the
tonight.
fuck up.
Yeah.
You made it all the way out here, and you shut the fuck up.
Give yourselves a round of applause.
Oh shit, Lori, this has been an absolute blast.
This
Thank you
has
so
been
much
fun.
for coming.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate
Aw.
it. Aw. We're having a moment. Aw.
Anything else you want to say behind a paywall before we?
Behind a paywall.
You got
I don't
any
know.
last minute nuggets?
I don't know. Anything juicy? I don't know. What was that?
Do you know any dirty gossip about Chris Seamer? I feel like you might know some dirty gossip about Chris Seamer.
You know
that
what?
everybody else doesn't already want. No. Starting out,
pretty
dirty gossip
open
about
with
Chris
his dirty
Seamer. It's
gossip.
like, well,
I love Chris Seamer. In fact, I messaged him before I got here. Anytime I'm in town, I'm like, I'm in town, Chris. I love Chris. I love working with Chris. We've become friends over the years from working together. Like if I'm griping about, so I can feel comfortable shooting him a message. Like,
Hell
dude,
yeah.
you know what I mean? And he's right back there.
he's the reason I have the open mic that I'm about to go run.
Right?
yeah.
He's a good guy.
Seamer is just a good guy. Like, and every crowd loves him. I love his delivery and his cadence when he's just that guy. Like, I always wanted to be that. I always like you need to be that comic where like Chris is, where, you know, people laugh at you on stage, but then they're thinking, man, I'd like to hang out with this guy. you know?
Exactly.
And that's how I just want people to want to hang out with me. Like, you know, so if they like you like that, but Chris never has trouble. And I've seen him sometimes get like, I'll see him pacing in the back of the room before he goes up.
And then just murder the place to pieces.
And he's like, oh, you know, and then he gets 30 seconds. Yeah, he's crushing, and he'll solidly crush the whole time up there. And it's just like, you know, just like everything when he's like, hey, player. I mean, just everything he says, you know, just his delivery, just the way he is. Just
Blood of my enemies, friends.
I don't think anybody could be him as far as the repeat what he does.
Right?
That
Yeah.
hey player really took me back to some like, it's okay, bud, discussions I've had with
Yes.
Chris Seamer.
Yeah.
Chris is that comic that'll
Hey,
pat
player.
you on the back when you are not doing well, and he'll just be like, hey, man, everything sucks. This is what I've dealt with.
Yeah.
Like, we're all in the same pit together.
And he is super supportive of all
Right.
comics. And yeah, he's just an all around great, like every scene needs a Seamer.
I agree.
Yeah,
Every scene
needs a Seamer.
a bougie Viking out there making everybody feel welcome and brotherhood and togetherness and community. And Chris bombed on Wednesday too.
Where were you guys on Wednesday that was so awful?
It was go bananas. The crowd
Oh,
sucked.
let's go bananas.
Oh man, that crowd
Most
sucked.
Wednesday nights have been going really well.
They have been good. It was an outlier, but
God, and I hate that's horrible, especially at a club. Like
it
a
made me
shitty
feel
crowd
so
at a
much better to
club.
watch Chris bomb, and I was like, oh, okay. I really did just fuck up hosting. I'm not a bad comic.
Yeah, yeah, that's all. I hate it when the crowd's off.
They just wouldn't like get all on the same page about anything.
Yeah, sometimes you wonder, why are you here?
Right.
Why did you spend the ticket money? You could have stayed home and not laughed.
For real.
I mean, you could have sat and stared at each other.
Just
and not
watch
laughed.
Flubber again or whatever you
Yeah,
do.
go bench something and just sit there. But yeah, I don't know why. Why did you show up? Why did you come tonight? Especially, I had a lady that, one couple of months ago. She sat like this in the front with her arms crossed all the time, looking at
God.
me. And I just kept staring at her like, why are you in the front? Why? You clearly don't want to be here. You're just staring at me, occasionally shrugging your shoulders. And, yeah, maybe one side of her mouth kind of turned up once. Like, it's just like, why are you here?
Real, I voted to go to the aquarium energy.
Yeah. And like, fuck this bitch. I don't want to be at this fucking show. This bitch. Yeah. Oh my God. I don't care that she has menopause. I'm sick of this shit. But yeah.
So our takeaways are you should be honest with yourself.
Self-awareness.
Self-awareness, and sometimes crowds suck.
Yeah. hope you enjoyed the episode of Breezy Lee. And here are the patrons that made that episode possible. Josh. Josh has no last name. Patrick Neiman or Nyman. I'm not sure which one that is. Nathan Alexander. Thank you, Nathan, for having a first and last name. DD Diva. DD Diva. I don't know who that is, but they feel really good about themselves. Jim Fagenbush, probably a relative of one of your hosts. Cameron James. Thank you, Cameron. Gretchen Schultz. Oh, I love Gretchen. She's a nice comic. I like her. Evan Beckmeyer. Evan Beckmeyer. Jarrell. Again, no last name, just one name like Cher. Jarrell. McGregor Lakes. Sounds like a soap opera name. Tori Fagenbush. Forced to sponsor the show. Garrett Teitelbaum. Garrett Teitelbaum. Kylie Dills. Kylie Dills is from my hometown, Chillicothe. And Eric N. At least he gave us an initial, Eric N. And that's Eric with a K, by the way. I like to point those things out. Please stay tuned for next week's episode with me, Lori Graves. Please be safe out there. See you later.